Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
Hey, welcome back to the Larry X's Show. Open your eyes, open them wide, look up. Guess what it is in the house? Is in the house. Anyway, thank you guys. We're going to have a lot of fun today. But first of all, I want to thank you guys for hanging in there with me. We did some reruns, and you guys really sent me some wonderful emails about the reruns that we did. And the cast is here today. We apologize that we had to cancel last week because your boy was under the weather. Yeah, I was under the weather, and I was holding up the weather for everybody, but I was under the weather, and I had just come off my trip in the South doing radio in Texas. I'm not Texas, but this time it was in Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and I think, where else did we go? Arkansas, as a matter of fact. But anyway, just get a little bit caught up. I wasn't here when the shooting happened in Florida. So first of all, let me send my love to my gay family out there and the gay community. And I didn't get to say this, but my heart is still there, and my heart is there. And we have so much to do. We have a lot of work to do. And you guys just hang in there. We are gonna put our heads and hats and stuff together and bring about a little peace in this world. And then my prayers goes out to the Istanbul, the terrorists there. And I have to call them terrorists because the media is calling them terrorists. But you know me, I got another twist on everything. But I won't bore you with my twist on what is happening in the world in terrorists. Well, I take that back. I will say one thing, and I'm looking at how politics is today. And you guys know that I'm always telling everybody, vote. Get out there and vote. Vote for the county, vote for the city, vote for the town, the state, and, for your presidency. Because when you see what these Republicans are doing, they're not lying to you about what they want to do. They're not hiding what they want to do. They're going after everybody's freedom, whether you're gay, whether you're lesbian, whether you're black, whether you're Hispanic. Donald Trump is not kidding. This is a dangerous man. This is a scary man. But the most important thing that I tell all of us, I suggest that we all look at, regardless of what side of the politics you're on, but consider the Supreme Court. Now, you guys know on my show here, I started talking around the first of the year. I said that this year is going to be very important, not necessarily for the jobs. I know we need the jobs, no question about that. I know we need security, no question about that. But the most important thing in my heart and in my mind is that Supreme Court. And I told you guys around the first of the year that at least 2 or 3 Supreme Court justices was going to come up. And that's where we are. And all of this give me liberty or give me death kind of thing is riding on who we get on that Supreme Court. And so we have to be very, very careful about who we put in there. I personally don't mind telling everybody, I'm liberal-minded. I am liberal-minded. I told you about Bernie Sanders. Not that I didn't like Bernie Sanders. I just knew he wasn't going to make it. And you see his actions now. You're looking at how he is acting now. So I'm running through all of these things Now, because the cast that we have today, a lot of this is going to be tied into freedom fighting. A lot of this is going to be tied into people waking up into a movement, not just the thought of a movement. So what I really want to thank you guys for, I got some wonderful emails about the shows, and some of you call. Some of you wish me good health, and some of you do what I love for you to do is just talk about me. Bad as just boy, some of you guys slammed me pretty hard this time. But anyway, I want to move this now because I think we're gonna enjoy this show. And normally I talk a little bit longer, but we got a fun cast, and I want to put as much time with this cast as we possibly can. So I'm going to start out. Now, this play is Tom. It's based upon Uncle Tom's Cabin, and I kind of got my co-host assigned for me today, and she didn't know that's what I was doing. So I was just filling everybody out. You know, I got these little mind games, and I love it. But now I'm going to start out by butchering her name like I normally do. But I want to introduce you guys Earnestine.
Yes, Earnestine Phillips.
Earnestine Phillips. So we have Earnestine Phillips in the house, and the cast of what? Tell me about it.
Of Tom. We're from the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum Theater. Mm-hmm. Some of you remember Will Geer as Grandpa Walton's at the end of his life. He was Grandpa Walton's on the Waltons. But before that, he established an amphitheater in Topanga Canyon because he got caught up in the whole McCarthyism, communism scare, and he was pretty much blackballed in Hollywood. So he and his family bought land in Topanga Canyon and started this beautiful amphitheater.
Well, I would like for you to introduce the cast starting from your right and moving to the left here.
On my right is Gerald Rivers. He plays Tom.
How you doing, Gerald?
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure being. We're gonna have some fun today, and so on.
And on my left is Jasmine Gatewood. She plays Eliza.
Hi.
I think, one of the most famous characters in the book, other than Uncle Tom, because we remember her of just bravely running across the frozen Ohio River on the ice with her son Harry to escape from the slaveholders who wanted to sell her son away from her. And then to her left is Shannon Shepard. She plays Cassie.
Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you.
You know, who has to live with Simon Legree, another one of the famous characters from Uncle Tom's Cabin. You know, one of the most heinous slave holders, masters in American literature. Mm-hmm. And of course, then we have a cast of 30 people running around on different plantations.
Is it 30 people?
Yeah, around at least 30 people, because we show Tom's journey from the beginning of him being on the Shelby plantation until when he is sold away from his family, and what that means to him as he travels throughout his life until at the end, we'll tell you, as some of you who've read the book know, he is beaten to death at the end of the story. But Harriet Beecher Stowe, who published this book in 1851, I believe, am I right about that? In 1851, really wanted to show the white population what was being done to a whole race of people, not just in the South, but also in the North.
Yes.
But the South was particularly heinous because no one wanted to be so down south, where they literally work you to death from sunup to sundown. So she, who lived across in Kentucky, Kentucky, which was a free state, on the other side was not, and she would see auctions and other conditions that whites were putting the Africans and blacks through, and she decided to write about it and in a very compassionate way and relate stories, and it was such a huge impact that her book sold more than the Holy Bible.
Well, let me ask you, Gerald. Let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. What attracted you to this story? And let me just do an assume. I'm assuming that you've done acting and worked on projects before this one.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it about this project that drew your attention?
Well, I've been acting for 30 plus years. Okay. I've been a member of the Geer Theatricum Botanicum, who does mostly classical literature and Shakespeare. And it was an opportunity for me to be a part of a Shakespeare company where I've been a member for almost 20 years now. And the artistic director, Geer, originally wanted to do this piece several years ago. And to be perfectly honest, Earnestine and I said no. We are considered the senior African-American members of the company, and she trusts us, and she comes to us, and she seeks counsel from us when she wants to handle issues that could be racially sensitive. And she doesn't want to be insensitive, so she says very honestly, I'm a white woman, and I want to do this play, and I want to come to you guys to make sure that if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. So initially we said, no, there's got to be something else you can do that would involve more African-American actors on stage. And she said, read the book. So she gave me the book, and I read it twice. And when I read it, what I discovered was the way that we use the term Uncle Tom and the character that Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote in the 1850s were very different.
Yes.
And so initially I wanted to know where this misunderstanding sort of came from. And what I discovered was there were many blacks who couldn't read and many whites who couldn't read for that matter. And so while the book was widely sold and widely popular, there were a lot of people who had never read it. So the book was produced as a play. And because there weren't blacks on stage, Uncle Tom was played by a white man in blackface, and he played the character as a buffoon and as a step-it-fetch-it and as a yielding, cowering, weak man. But the character that she wrote was strongly religious. And what he was able to do was to find in his own religious conviction peace and solace in the worst set of possible circumstances.
Thank you for the hold that thought just a minute. Jarvis, are we having technical problems where people because I'm getting some text messages that people not able to, couldn't log on to the show? Okay, so if you just keep logging in, I'm going to send some text back as we do this, so it's not a this and this, but helping the people get on the show. Now, that's a very powerful statement because most people, what we do now, we look at Clarence Thomas.
Uh-huh.
And so we make him
or
the
OJ.
epitome of an Uncle Tom.
Right. And
then I remember the OJ, when OJ, I've never watched the game of baseball, football, basketball in my whole life. But I remember OJ being called the Uncle Tom at the time, and several others. But the story itself, Uncle Tom was a very powerful man.
He was. He was a man of religious and spiritual conviction. And he was not a man who, one, denied his race or his culture, or two, betrayed his race, his culture, or his family, or three, tried to climb some social ladder, structure, strata to be seen better by the dominant culture. He was simply who he was. And he was a man of peace. Now, there are some people who, even that are aware of the book and who he was, who will still see him as someone who didn't fight back. But in my opinion, he fought back in his own way. And he fought
Absolutely.
back without compromising his own principles. Martin Luther King was called an Uncle Tom. When we talk about black people who are willing to yield to the dominant culture, often for their own gain, we describe that as an Uncle Tom.
Now, every soldier is not on the battlefield. There's no
Correct.
question about that.
Correct.
Some soldiers are in the classroom teaching our kids. Some soldiers
today, some are on the computer.
Some soldiers on the
a
computer.
lot, yeah.
You agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
What drew you to the show? I mean, I'm sorry. Please reintroduce yourself, because
I'm Shannon Shepard, and
Shannon.
I play Cassie, as well as I'm actually double cast. I play Cassie and Mammy. And I found out about the audition through Actors Equity. And when I went, I loved the space. I loved the vibe. it had been a long time since I've been to an audition where everyone was relaxed, super helpful, happy, talking to each other. I just felt a spirit and an energy there that was very different. I said, oh, well, what's going on here? I remember meeting Gerald, and we were going to read together, and he was just so nice and polite and helpful. But more than that, when I got parts of the script to prepare, when I received my callback, I was very moved by the writing.
Okay.
And very moved by what I knew at that point of Cassie, the character. You know, I only got a little bit of her script, her sides, you know, her monologue and some of the writing, and I loved it.
The character that you're playing, tell the audience just a little bit about the character that you're playing.
Cassie is a woman who is actually seen as a concubine, if you will, a sex slave, someone who's being sexually exploited, raped, and abused by one of the awful slave masters, Simon Legree. The last slave master Tom ends up having deep down south outside of New Orleans in Louisiana, and she's there. And she's a miserable woman who's emotionally unstable and has a big backstory that ends up being revealed in the play, as far as how she ended up there and what her circumstance is.
As a African-American black actress, woman, knowing the history of the rape, the brutality, how did that affect you getting into character?
Well, with my technique, I'm able to I can step in and then step out, but you know, we all have our various techniques as actors, but whenever I do a show, I've done other shows about slavery, and whenever I do a show like this, once I do all my work, it really then becomes about honoring the ancestors and honoring the story, knowing this really happened. There are God knows how many Cassies back then, and all of these characters for that matter. So I just try to just get into it and take myself out and just know I'm honoring the story. I'm honoring my ancestors.
I looked down at the paper and I saw Jasmine, so I did get your name right there. So Jasmine, tell us a little bit about your character.
Okay.
And by the way, thank you so much for that.
Sure.
I'm just loving the energy that you guys bring to the show, and I want to say it. I so appreciate you guys coming on and talking about this.
Thank you
for having us.
But tell us a little bit about your character.
Okay. Well, my name is Jasmine Gatewood. I am from Alabama, and I currently go to Cal Arts.
I am so sorry to hear that, child. I'm just kidding.
Hey, I'm in the South now.
That's right. Jarvis is from Alabama. That's right.
Alabama in the house.
From Alabama. I told you I'm crazy, so but go ahead.
I'm here for it. I feel at home. I currently go to California Institute of the Arts in Santa Clarita, and this is my first year at the Theatricum Botanicum, and I'm so excited to be able to be here with this beautiful cast. And I play Elisa in the show, and this character here is very strong, and I do appreciate. I'll plug in how you see so many different women and men playing such strong characters in different aspects of life in that time frame. And I do play a mother, a young mother. I am married to a man named George, who is on another plantation, and we have a child together, and his name is Harry. And I'm the slave that is close to the woman of the house, very close to Mrs. Shelby. And so I'm in the house. I see everything, hear everything. I'm a little bit everywhere.
Let me ask you a question then. Because I love the fact that you young people are getting into these stories. I mean, that's just, I can't tell you what that means to me personally, and so many that I know.
To all of us.
Yes. And so as young people, both of you, but it's now that you have the mic, what has this meant for you?
Going back to, I come from Alabama. A part of our curriculum, we had to read this story, and I don't know how it is for curriculums now in the school system now, but I know when I was in middle school, we had to read this for the 8th grade, and so to be able to come back to it at 23 and in grad school, being able to come back to such a story, it's and play a role of such quality, and play a role and be in a space with so many different Black people. It hits a spot of your soul, because you're going to a place where a lot of people can't imagine going,
Right.
Or don't
and you're
want to go.
or don't
Yes.
want
Don't
to
wanna
go.
go, absolutely,
And I'm from the South, where not only 2 miles down the road there is a cotton field.
Yes.
So to be able to play such a role and in such a story, you have to go to that right place, because those are our ancestors, and it is something to be able to reach that place, because we are going there. I'm
Yes.
telling you, when you come see this
Yeah.
show, you will not be disappointed. But you can only imagine what it was like back then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you something, but I have just a little answer to why Uncle Tom was made into this fetch it and step it kind of guy. That wasn't an accident.
Oh, no.
So as you young Black people start to put your minds around this thing, that was a character assassination that was planned through the media at that time, which was newspapers, magazines, and other books, because they wanted one way to paint a Black man, and that was a low life slave with no other value but just what he or she could bring to the table in sweat equity. And when Black men showed that they weren't violent, when they was willing to look at another way of doing things, they were vilified because they didn't want that image. And now I'm going to get into that. I don't write them about it. Hit me up. We see the same thing happening to Bill Cosby. I didn't say Bill Cosby hasn't done anything wrong. I'm saying Bill Cosby didn't do anything that half of Hollywood hadn't done. And if everybody in Hollywood left Hollywood, if all the men in Hollywood left Hollywood that did what Bill Cosby did, Hollywood would be empty. It'd be just a ghost town, because this is what they did, being in the music industry, being in behind the scenes of things, these parties and stuff. I'm not saying it was right, but I'm just saying that you had a Black man that is similar to what the Uncle Tom situation was, where he had become the father. Now remember this, the father of America.
Well, let's look at it another way too.
Yeah, please.
I mean, other than there was a lot of money. In other words, this country was built on the blacks of slaves.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of money made down there on free labor. So when Harriet Beecher Stowe published this book and showing that you are using a whole a group of people for free labor for your own benefit of making money.
Yes.
So they had to immediately, even the religious community had to immediately vilify this book, because if people really looked at what they were doing to blacks, then they would want to stop it. And the South says absolutely not, because we're making so much money on cotton, tobacco, and other crops, not just in this country, but selling it to the European community.
Yes.
So it's a money thing. So they and so the business owners, the religious community, because there's a lot of religion in this book, had to look at what they were preaching every Sunday about we're the master and you the servant, and if you just keep being that servant, you're going to get to heaven. Well, we all know that we weren't even considered human beings. So we were animals. So first of all, they could care less about our souls, because they didn't believe any black soul was going to heaven, and they didn't believe any black person was their heaven didn't include black people. But it was a money thing.
Absolutely.
That they had to vilify this book immediately. So
it was
people-
economics, no question
yeah.
about it.
It would literally have destroyed their way of life.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It would have brought
Desperately trying to hold
would have
on to
brought
it.
the economy to its knees, because it was built on the backs of free labor. I just want to go back to one of the comments about having these young people involved, which has
Right.
been
Yes, please do.
so energizing and refreshing
Right.
for me. During the rehearsal process, there was one of the young ladies who, she's probably in her early 20s, she was placed on the auction block. And just in the scene in
Yes.
rehearsal, without an audience there, she literally broke down.
Yes.
And the director had to stop the rehearsal process and come up and say, "Are you okay? Can we go on?"
Wow.
And the young lady said, "Yes, I just got in touch with what my ancestors
Yes.
went through.
Yeah.
And I just felt for a moment in a very real way what it would have been like to stand up and have people bid on me as a piece of property." And she broke down and wept, sobbed. And it affected the rest of the rehearsal process, not just that day, but going forward. It opened the door for us to have real discussion about feelings that were coming up, not only for the black actors in the cast, but for the white actors as well, and them having to play the role fully, having to tell the story. I will just share with you, we don't pull punches. There are whippings on stage with an actual whip that the audience will, and for those that are going to be uncomfortable, I can only say, imagine how uncomfortable it was for those people who had to experience that in real life. And they leave with a very real sense of what it was like. At the same time, Tom represents a real spiritual individual who, in light and in spite of everything that's going on, says that I know a truth that you may not understand right now.
Wow.
And everybody's not going to get me. Everybody's not going to believe the way that I do or act the way that I do, but that's not going to change my belief system because I know the ultimate truth. And for him, and it's interesting for me as an actor to play this character, to find that place where I'm not making a comment on what it would have been like to be in that situation, but just to place myself in that situation and yield to the character that was created. And it wears me out.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness!
Yeah,
And you
it's very
playing
exhausting.
the role of the wife.
Well, yeah, I play two characters. I play his wife, and what I like about this piece, this is what I like about it, is that even though Tom is how can I say, set in his ways and his religion, there are people all around him who are a little bit more proactive. Because even Aunt Chloe, his wife, wants him to run. You need to run, you know. And just like Eliza and her son ran, and Cassie and Em is going to run later on. So you have these different personalities, and you know, we appreciate where he's coming from, because this is the important thing, I think.
Please.
That on these plantations, if you can imagine it, you have to find a way to survive it. Now we're not talking
We have
about
a caller. Yeah, if there's a caller, everybody pick up your headphones.
I don't have one of those, but can
Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Does she have Can you tell the caller?
can you put the call on speaker or something?
Hello, caller.
Yes.
Yes, please. Talk to us, caller. You're on the air with us. Hello, caller. Anyway, she hung up. Sorry about that.
But-
we always try to respect the callers, but go right ahead.
But well, see, everyone, you have to find a way to survive this, and I'm not talking about just trying to find something to eat, but mentally,
Yes.
survive because there is no safe place. No safe place. Any minute you can be sold away from your family or the plantation. You don't know where you're going. You have no say of anything. And here you have Tom here, the most loyal slave in American literature, and it doesn't matter to the Shelbys. He needs the money.
Right.
So if he can go, and this little boy can go, anybody can go. So you need a way to survive. So how do you do it? Everybody finds their own little niche, whether it's religion, whether I can cook for the Shelby family, whatever it is, you have to find a way to survive. And if your survival is, let me get the hell out of here, then that's the way it is. Right. But if you want to stay and help with others, it's this. But you have to find a way to psychologically keep your head together, or you're going to just totally go mad, totally bonkers when you have no control over your life. And I think that's each of these characters on this plantation. This is really high octane stuff that we're doing.
They're back. The caller is back.
Caller back.
Okay, we're gonna try this again. Hello, caller.
Yes.
You're on the air.
Oh, great. I have a question for the cast members of Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering, because I know they have a very diverse audience, I'm sure, that comes. How does the audience respond to the whippings and the actual truth behind what happened so long ago, and what kind of energy does the cast get from that?
I'll share a couple things. One, on opening night, I think the audience was in shock. I think they were stunned that we would put this kind of piece on a stage where they traditionally come and see Shakespeare and classical theater being presented. Two, I think everybody leaves with more information than they showed up with, and more emotional sort of raw feelings than they came in with. Of course, there are moments where it's interesting. African American audiences are finding humor in it because there is some humor in it. I think that the white audiences were afraid to laugh early on because they didn't know is this all right?
They didn't know the punchline.
Right? Is this all right? We have had, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, there was two ladies who actually got up and walked out when the whipping started. There were two black women, and you could audibly hear them say, "Oh my God, this is too much. I can't take it." And so the show is intense, to put it mildly. But if you follow the story, it's the story not only of the blacks, but the whites and their opinions. And also Liza's husband, George, almost represents a Malcolm X type character. So you have Tom, who represents the peace and the love and the acceptance and the religion and the spirituality. And then you have George, who literally has a gun, who says, no, I don't accept your laws. I don't accept your ways. I don't accept your truth. Me and my family are getting out of here by any means necessary.
Caller, let me ask you a question. Have you read the book?
Wow. I have read the book a very long time ago, and I actually was interested in this this show because one of my friends is actually in the cast, and I have a question for Eliza as well.
Eliza? There's a question for Eliza. Can we get a headphone to Eliza? There you go.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. My question for you is, how does it feel being the one that got away, the one that got to rescue their child?
It's not the only one.
Yeah. But there was a few characters that did get away, that took that stand to run. But speaking as far as Eliza, knowing that her child was going to be sold, and to being a faithful servant on the plantation, and the only thing that she has apart from her husband is going to be sold away from her, taken away from her, which back then a lot of mothers didn't even have an opportunity to raise their children. So I had an opportunity to raise my child for a minute, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing you're taking the only thing I have here that is keeping me sane so I can survive on this plantation. You're going to take it away from me. And I say, oh no, this isn't happening. I don't care how loyal I am to you and this family, how much you've been, because there were good masters back then. Lord Jesus, you were sold, you were taken care of, but who says there were good masters? At the same token, some people lived better than others on a plantation. But the time that you say you're going to take away my child, majority of the women don't even have time to think. You will see a piece of that also in the show, where a mother is gone for a split second and her child is gone when she comes back. I had time to think about it. Didn't even think about it. I had time to go get my child prepared and ready to go and run. And and it's something on the inside that it's an adrenaline rush. What a mother will do for her child. And I don't have any children. I always reflect back to my mother and what she has done for me and my brothers, and what she continues to do in keeping us together and making sure we're following our dreams. And I want the same for my child in this show. I want to let him know that you're not being taken away. I'm going to go find that freedom. We're going to go find your daddy wherever he at, and if he can make it with us, Lord Jesus, we're going to be free somewhere. So I can raise you to be a man that I have seen in my husband. So I can raise you to be that man that will be able to say, I have made it, and I can make a difference. I'm not going to give that opportunity for them to beat and whip you, and you being taken away from me, and I have no clue where you are. And it's that.
You can talk about crossing that ice.
Lord Jesus, and the adrenaline of crossing the ice. I always reflect back to that mother that picked up that car that was on top of her child, and in a split second, you don't think, what are you doing in a split second of having to get away, having to save someone, you don't know, and it's adrenaline rush. And I crossed the ice in the show to make it to freedom.
Iceberg to iceberg, right?
Right, iceberg to iceberg, and you're cold, but you're not even thinking about that. I'm thinking about getting away with my child. You're not getting us. You're not, because I know if you catch me too, it's gonna be worse than if I didn't run. Right. So it could, because I could fight. I could have stayed on the plantation. I could have fought, saying no, don't take my child, and gotten beat. But to run and get caught, you could say I'm dead at that point. So and it's so many different spectrums you see of things that happened back then.
Well, thank you so much. You see the passion of this young lady, and Carla, thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling, and stay tuned. Keep in tune with the
and
Larry
come see the show.
Yes.
Come see the show.
Of course, I'll be out in October to see the show.
Okay, thank you so much.
October
1st,
yeah.
That's the last show, but we're there just about every weekend between now and then. The Geer Theatricum Botanicum in Topanga Canyon, and the website is www.theatricum.com, where you can get tickets and the schedule of this particular performance, among other things that the theater is doing this summer.
Bring your friends with you.
Thank you so much, Carla, and stay and keep in and support the show. Thank you so much.
I also wanted to say, just in regards to mothers, one thing that I do appreciate about the writer Harriet Beecher Stowe and the sacrifices that she shows some of the actors or some of the characters making is that, yes, you have, Aunt Chloe who wants Tom to run, and you have Eliza who does run and does leave and get away. But then you have another aspect of you have another aspect of motherhood that is shown. And I don't know that I want to give that away at the radio show, but
let me make a quick statement. She wasn't saying that there was good slave owners people.
No.
We understand that.
Yeah. I don't think anyone is saying that.
I have an audience I have to talk to.
Oh, I see.
No.
Oh, yeah. Let's clear that up, huh?
No.
Some were better than others.
She wasn't saying that.
I was saying there were some were better than others.
She was saying some beat you rather than cut your throat. And, but anyway.
Right. No, yeah.
I come out, I'm from Mississippi, Grenada. I was just there, my hometown. I know you guys. I've been getting some support from Grenada, Mississippi, where I'm from. Or I used to say Grenada, Mississippi, and so I grew up in those backwoods in Mississippi. And I tell you, there was some would feed you and beat you at the same time. So we understand that. Just sometimes when you in media and you say you make statements on phone, it's out there forever. You know what I mean? So some people are mistake.
No, definitely.
Well, in the context of slavery, I think what you were saying is
you don't have to be
a slave.
Yeah, you don't have to waste a lot of time on that. We already got everybody got that
system, right?
But
right.
I was told that you do Martin Luther King.
I do. I am considered the voice of Martin Luther King. I've been doing that for about 30 years, and I travel the country and teach people, and I'm considered one of the world's most prolific scholars, students on the words, works, and teachings of the late, great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King.
One of the reasons, I just want to, once again, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on the show. And this is really good for me. But I just started to recite one of King's phrases, because when I look at politics and what's going on around the world, and I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the most dangerous things in human beings is sincere ignorance and
apathy.
Yeah, and I just love some of the give us an example give us a sample of King's voice right now.
You would ask me.
This is Larry X's Ear Show, and they ain't gonna ask me if I don't ask you.
Okay. There is another way as old as the insights of Jesus of Nazareth, and as modern as the techniques of Mohandas K. Gandhi. There is another way.
I like that. Yeah, give us an applause.
All right.
And the phrase was sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. That's the phrase that I love by King. I'm just running across that, over the last. I listened to one of my heroes, the Madison, Joe Madison, and he has a show on Sirius XM. And generally, I don't promote anybody else's show. But if you get a chance, Sirius XM, the Joe Madison show, brother been out there for 30, 40 years, and I heard him say that was one of the phrases from Dr. King. But anyway,
well, let me can I just
please
say
go
one
right
thing?
ahead.
Because just so no one won't get the impression that this is the black show out at the Will Geer Theatrical Botanicum Theater. We have other actors of color in other productions.
Tell us about them.
And we have 5 productions running throughout the season. We have Romeo and Juliet, which is, interestingly, she plopped it right down in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Mm-hmm. Then we have A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is absolutely beautiful, with the fairies running around the hills, etc. And Michael McFall, who does a dynamic Oberon. We have The Imaginary Invalid. We have Titus Andronicus. And so we do have these 5 shows running at Theatricum, and you can see them all in one weekend if you like. And we have actors in color in all of them.
I love what you said that. Now, we kind of, sort of, and please correct me, but kind of, sort of, as an African American, I like to call myself black. I ain't into the African American, but that's fine. That's beautiful. Yeah. As a black man in America, ancient Egyptian, I claim that too. But let me ask you, I got a sense of what I can get out of the show, because I lived a little bit of that in my family coming out of Mississippi. I actually grew up where people still had the shackle scars on their ankles and stuff. I grew up in a cotton field where I saw my family as far as you can see is a cotton field. I'm not talking about with the tractor and the truck. I'm talking about mule and wagon. Mm-hmm. I personally, with my young, handsome self, lived to see that. But anyway, so I get a sense of what I can learn. Now, what can a white person sitting in the audience get out of this?
I'll first, you go say. But I think some whites still, they don't believe it was that bad. Mm-hmm. Well, I forget the expression of the lady we talked to in our talk back. I forget the expression she used, as though Harriet Beecher Stowe exaggerated something. Mm-hmm. They can't get the sense of it being so horrible. Mm-hmm. That there were babies stomped right in front of their mothers, or being killed,
being boiled, being
hung, being burned.
Yeah.
I mean, any heinous, sick, depraved could own you, and they could do anything to you, and there was no law that say they could not.
Exactly.
And they can't quite get it. So when they see being whipped, these kind of treatments, because it's in your face. It's not TV. It's not film. It's in your face. That they can sort of, yes, this happened. We're not making anything up.
Well, I'm only cutting in because of the sake of time.
Mm-hmm. But go ahead, Gerald.
We had the same thing with police brutality.
Right.
Where there were
Right.
many whites wanted to deny, didn't want to say it, and then once they start seeing black men being shot in the back by the cops and being shot unarmed by the cops. And I remember when I was coming up, bang, bang, shoot 'em up, cowboys and Indians, if you shot somebody in the back, you was considered a coward.
Right.
But here's a guy with a gun and a badge shooting a kid unarmed in the back.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a coward on the police department. I didn't say the whole police department. Okay, arrest me. I didn't say the whole police department. I said there are cowards on the police department. The problem is they're scared of the other policemen. But anyway, you was about to say something.
I think art and theater has a way often to address issues that the media and the news cannot. And I think when we present it in an artistic way, and they're coming to have this theatrical experience, and they have their wine and cheese, and they have their lunch on the grounds, and they're going into a theater where Grandpa from the Waltons used to hang out, and they've seen classical theater and Shakespeare, and they come in to see this. The one thing that's true about art and theater is it is about human relationships.
Yes.
And so this just happens to be the backdrop, the situation, the setting for human relationships to be played out, and for us to see, one, how kind, but two, and more importantly, how cruel we can be to one another. So then it doesn't matter what their racial, ethnic, cultural, religious leanings are. They have to see how humans treat one another.
Man's inhumanity to man.
And then they have to examine themselves and say, how do I treat another human being?
Yes, because in the consciousness of most Americans and throughout the world, the Jewish Holocaust is the kind of the measuring stick for man's inhumanity to man, and so it is kind of pushed what happened here in slavery a little bit down as far as the media and accepting, but that's horrors,
because the people who are controlling the media, because when you think about the
we're
length
saying the same
of the
thing.
Holocaust, and I don't mean to diminish the atrocities of the Holocaust at all, but it just in terms of time, numbers, and human life, and a stain on human and American history or Western history, slavery went on a lot longer than the Holocaust took place.
Yes.
And nobody wants to go back and they can't count the number of lives that were lost and the number of families that were destroyed and the amount of culture that was.
I would like to speak on that.
Please go right ahead.
I think part of the reason also is because in America's the ones who did it. You can speak to atrocity that happened in Europe and say how bad that was from the aspect of being American, but we don't like to speak about the things that we've done here to our own people, to our own citizens. And I think that's what it's really about. They don't want to be culpable. And that's why it's easy for Americans collectively to have a mentality of just move on, just forget about it. It happened. It's in the past. And I think what shows like this do and what stories like this do is just remind us of where we're all coming from and why we're here. The reason why the African Americans collectively are in the condition that we are in today, take it all the way back to the beginning when we were first dropped off here.
Yes.
This is why all roads lead back to slavery. And you touched on that a little bit, at the last radio.
Let me say this because I'm only moving because of time. But what you said was very brilliant. I really appreciate you bringing that in because that is one of the problems. I have a very good friend of mine that was in one of the camps. I won't name the camp. He was 13 or 14. He's one of the Holocaust survivors. And he's in his late 80s now. And he and I sit down, and he himself is shocked and tell me about how he recognized now the atrocities of slavery, although he went through the Holocaust. And so what you are saying really is a very powerful statement because once it is recognized over there, then you can get more attention behind it. Whether it is, even when I talk to Asians or Hispanics or people from India, when they come to America and say, well, why don't blacks do this, that? Well, you was able to run from your oppressor. You was able to get on a boat and take off and run from your oppressor and come over here and benefit off the blood, sweat, and tears of us. How dare you tell me how to deal with the beast that we grew up in the belly of?
Right. And they came with their language intact.
Yes, I just want to give a shout out to Ellen Geer.
Okay.
Who is Will Geer's daughter, who is our artistic director, for really pushing this project after
Yes.
a decade of wanting to do it, of finding such an original way of presenting it, because she has it where Harriet Beecher Stowe weaves in and out of the story. And thank you, Ellen Geer, for really having the courage to make this happen.
Well, you guys got to come back on this show. 1 hour
Anytime.
is just not a good 1 hour.
Yeah,
This is your family here.
I will be your co-host anytime.
yeah, because there's so
As
many.
will I.
Yeah, there's so many
Is
things
there
you can
any
say.
music on the show?
There's lots of music.
Oh my God,
There's-
yes.
There's a lot of.
We don't have
We
enough
have
time.
black people, baby. We're singing.
Negro spiritual.
We are
And we
singing.
can thank Ellen for that.
I
She's
can
like,
thank
you gonna
Ellen.
sing?
Thank
Yeah,
you,
all
Ellen.
these shows.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You know, this is absolutely great. This time is going. We got about 3 minutes here, and tell me just a little bit about what kind of music we have. Gospel music.
Oh yeah, let's sing.
It's-
Roll, Jordan, roll, roll, Jordan, roll. I want to go to heaven when I die to hear old Jordan roll. Oh, roll, Jordan, roll, roll, Jordan, roll. I want to go to heaven when I die to hear old Jordan roll. So everyone come see our show, theatricum.com.
Okay, once again, what we do, I end the show with going around the table and then just quick as you can, because of the sake of time, just a few words of wisdom, starting with you.
The past informs the future, and our future determines who we are. And this show gives us the opportunity to explore our past and to determine our future.
We should always be proud of our ancestors. We should never turn away. We should always honor them, because we are standing on their shoulders.
All right. Always being aware this is real, and never just saying that this didn't happen or you should be healed from this by now. No, this is real. This has happened, and you need to be aware because it is still happening today. And when will a change come?
Know yourself, love yourself, know your history, which is a first step in allowing yourself to heal and to stand for justice. And restitution. I believe in restitution and reparations.
Oh my God!
That's another talk show.
That's a whole.
Well, we got to come back. And
I
have
had to
that.
say that.
We got to come back.
You
and
got to
have
come
that.
and see the show, and then we'll come back after you've seen the show.
Right.
Yes, we'll do
That's
that.
what you
You know,
think, definitely.
we are cosmic citizens of a universe that we had no power over making. We are the stars. We are the universe. We are the sun, the moon. We are an orbit within ourselves, and we pull people into our space because of the energy that we put out there. If you put negative energy out there, you're going to pull negative people into your orbit. If you put positive energy out there, you're going to pull positive people into your orbit. And I thank the Almighty for bringing me here today, that I have pulled some positive energy into this orbit. Remember, a nation can rise no higher than it elevates its woman. This is Larry Yates. See you next week.